Why the colonization of the planet Mars risks developing into a historical tragedy. The plan to colonize the planet Mars seems to be the hottest scientific project of the time, at least in terms of visibility and interest. It's a perfectly logical thing, and in the event that we step for the first time on another planet, that the eyes focus on the red soils of Mars, especially when people like Elon Musk or Lansdorp promise immediate developments and a first trip before the year, well, I don't, they said 2025, but I don't think so. Now, this is a trip to the planet Mars. Is it feasible, ethical, as well as beneficial given today's conditions? This is a question that torments many people in science, somewhat dividing the most ambitious from the more patient or pessimistic. In such a great and critical moment for science, but also for humanity as a whole, it's certain that there will be a second thoughts and disagreements about this. In this particular peculiar case, probably the most conservative views come to be heard as the voice of reason in the face of a climate of excitement that will, with mathematical precision, lead to high-risk moves, stepping on the limits of scientific ethics. For starters, a manned mission to Mars could be sent perhaps even earlier than 2025, as they originally thought. Lansdorp said, the technology already exists in the hands of experts. The plan is delayed because of the effort to ensure sustainable conditions for the astronauts, but also to reduce the risk to Mars itself, an effort that, according to many estimates, will still be incomplete in the years to come. The Dutch founder of the Mars One organization has in his hands over 1 million applications for people who wish to be the first to set foot on Mars, knowing that the journey they will not have a return journey from this planet, a fact that in itself captures the vanity behind this historic effect and the effort. Companies like SpaceX and organizations like Mars One are certain to benefit from an eventual colonization of Mars, but the goal is, through the mission, for science to progress, to create perspectives for the future, and not to stumble on our first steps outside of our home planet, even if it lands us on the red soil of Mars. Is this a suicide mission? A huge list of technical and ethical problems. The problems with long-duration manned travel has been known for years. In fact, back in 2002, NASA had written a list of them. The risk of health effects due to cosmic radiation, weakening of astronauts' bones and muscle tissue from the different gravity, and ability to deal with injuries and illnesses in space are just a few of them. If all this is to be overcome in some way that has not been found to date, then we enter the second list of problems concerning the behavior of the crew. Astronauts on Mars will have to follow specific instructions while they are in isolation away from all other people. The possibility of them defying orders, acting on their own initiative, is very high, creating a truly disastrous possibility. According to studies on the behavior of isolated individuals or communities, there is a multitude of psychosocial problems that can arise. Why would not the first Mars colonists operate autonomously, ignoring instructions from Earth? Why not turn to each other when the going gets tough? And here it's worth mentioning two very important facts about the future mission. The first is that Lansdowne's plan includes a reality show that will show the journey of the colonists and their life in space. How will the chosen, quote unquote, of this mission function, knowing that an entire planet is watching them but unable to control them? The second has to do with managing a death in space. Obviously, it would be disastrous for a dead organism to remain on the pristine soil of Mars. If this happens, for example, if a burial takes place, then over time Mars can develop into a completely inhospitable and polluted planet. We do not know which microorganisms will manage to survive on the red planet or how they will evolve there. What is certain is that we will have a hard time controlling them if they create their colony first. The scenario for controlled death by euthanasia and injection in a closed chamber is the most prevalent, since it's the only safe one so far. But who among all those who have applied for the trip will be able to end their life when the time is right? Is it reasonable or moral for a man to carry out such an instruction? If all the above problems and moral qualms are overcome, then we move on to the next cycle of problems. Now scientists will be asked to play with the possibilities. For the survival of the astronauts, especially in the first period, several relief missions are required, which will contain the essentials of food, water, batteries, and everything else needed for a group of isolated people. We've seen, however, that even much lighter missions tend to fail, crashing into the ground on landing. The Schiaparelli probe that was destroyed recently on the ground of Mars is the most typical example. What if one of the missions fails, leaving the settlers without supplies? This episode of the reality show probably won't be all that pleasant. So the journey to Mars may be impressive, its time may be slowly arriving, but many difficulties must first be overcome in order to speak with relative optimism about it. Otherwise, the grandiose plan will likely turn into a terrifying tragedy with negative implications for science as a whole. Please leave your comments about this, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.